Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My deepest thanks to my nephew Nafis for that heartfelt eulogy for my late mother. For those who knew my mother, and there are many here today, and those who did not have the privilege, I would like to share a few things with you about my mother. My mother, Marhuma Shirinbai Bhogadia, was born in Angora, Uganda in 1936. Her father was Marhuma Ladinbai Bimji, who was a trained Maulana and recited majlises during Muharram, Safar and other important occasions. Due to my grandmother's pregnancy with my youngest uncle, the family moved back to Palitana, India, and my maternal grandfather returned back on his own to Uganda. Because of the Second World War, passenger shipping between the Indian subcontinent and Africa was severely disrupted, and the family was left stranded in India. Mum spent those early years in Palitana, India, without the presence of her father, but the family rejoined her father back in Uganda soon after the Second World War. The family returned to a small town called Gayaza before coming to Kampala, Uganda's main city. My mother was very fond of traveling, and being the youngest of the surviving daughters, was taken on her first ziyarat trip to Iraq and Iran in 1952. This was the first of many ziyarats that she undertook with my father and myself over the coming years. She accompanied me and my wife for Hajj and later to Umrah and all the ziyarats of the 14 Masumins with my daughter Taiba. 2 years after her return back to Uganda from her ziyarat trip in 1952, she got engaged to my late father and got married a short time thereafter. Early married life was financially challenging, but a very happy one. Even with all of life's challenges, she faced the world with unparalleled hope and optimism based on her unbroken faith in Allah and the teachings of the Prophet's family, the Ahlul Bayt. However, nothing had prepared her for what was to follow in September 1970 and over the next 2 Septembers. 12th September 1970, her father, Ladinbai Bimji, passed away suddenly. Mum was very close to her father and shared his deep religiosity and trust in Allah. He instilled in her passion for reading, and in particular reading about the 12th Imam. Her father's death shook Mum's world, and she would continue to pray for him every Thursday. She continued to consult her father even after his death. Whenever she was concerned or worried about a major decision, she would invoke the help of the 12th Imam by writing an ariza. Her father would then appear in her dreams and provide guidance to my mum. I recall this happening on many occasions, as I was the person that used to drop the ariza to a river or the ocean. Such was her trust in the 12th Imam. Her father's death was followed by 2 further consecutive years of grief and sadness. September 1971, just 1 year later, my father passed away at a young age. My mother was only 35 at the time, but now with 4 young kids to support, all under the age of 14. Moving on to the following September 1972, Idi Amin decided to expel Asians from Uganda, and Mum had to leave the land of her birth and travel to UK with her young children. After a few months, we settled in Leicester. Mum arrived in the UK with only 10 shillings in Ugandan currency, probably worth 20 pence in its heyday, and a burn-in-our sewing machine. Times were tough for us then, but Mum kept the family together. She took on the role of a father and a mother and provided stability for my brother and I to excel in our studies. She would work late into the night on her burn-in-our sewing machine to make ends meet. She would wake up again for Namaz Shab and not sleep after that, preferring to stitch as many clothes as she could do before the kids woke up. When the good times came, she did not forget her past. She showed great concern to the destitute and the dislocated peoples of the world. It did not matter what color, creed, or religion they were. She would help financially with whatever she had. She regularly gave to various charities and encouraged her children, including myself, to do the same. Her faith and trust in Allah knew no bounds. She would advise to forego hundreds of thousands of pounds if it meant that the work of Allah would continue. I remember being at a property auction where the only two bidders were myself and a local madrasa at the Sultan Bahu Trust in Birmingham. I was not sure whether to continue bidding against that mosque. Confused, I resorted to calling my mum for advice. Her instant response was not to come in the way of Allah's work. In Gujarati, she told me, Allah na kamma wachmana auje. I immediately withdrew from the bidding and the madrasa picked up the property at half its valuation price. Mum enjoyed her travels and joined me and my sister in a return visit to Uganda, as my nephew alluded to tend to my father's and grandfather's graves. She also traveled extensively with us to the Far East and lately enjoyed a cruising holiday in the Canaries. During the last few months of her life, I recall that she met up with all the relations that she had not seen for some time. My cousin Mahmoud Bimji and brother-in-law Sultan both came from Toronto to visit her late last year. My cousins Shaida and Mary came to see her in December. A few weeks before she passed away, she told me that she had dreamed that the presenters of her favorite Islamic TV channel were all in mourning and wearing black clothes, but that she could not understand why, as there was no wafat or a sad occasion at that time. I now understand that the black clothes were foretelling Mum's own departure from this world. Mum passed away 18 days after that dream. 1 week before she died, my niece Zainabai went to see my mum, her nanima. Mum told her that she wanted Zainabai to participate in her ghusl janaza. Mum must have known that she was getting ready to leave this world. On the early hours of Sunday, 28 January, my mum had got up for namaz al-shab, as was her routine. She did her wuzu and completed her masa once she got back onto her bed. She died in between her wuzu and her namaz al-shab. She could not have asked for a better end to her life, dying in a state of wuzu in preparation for her namaz al-shab. She died peacefully and without any suffering. My mum is now finally back with my late father and grandfather. My late father left her as a precious amanat for all of us siblings to look after, and we have finally returned that amanat back to him. I hope we have done him proud, inshallah. Because of the caring and tender mother, aunt and grandmother that she was, my mother will be sorely missed. But greater than the sorrow from her death is the joy that she spread in her life. To us, her children, to her nieces and nephews, and to her grandchildren, Nafiz, Zainabai, Zahir, Muhammad Ali, Fatima, and Tayeba. Just as she guided each of her 4 children through their lives, her wisdom and love will continue to guide each of her 6 grandchildren throughout their lives. I would like to end by expressing my family's deep gratitude to the Leicester Jamaat's Executive Committee for facilitating this commemoration event, to Onal Ismail for being the master of ceremonies today, to the Jamaat volunteers for their excellent work, to the burial, ghusl and ladies subcommittees for all their assistance during the funeral and today's event, to Ali Abbas Rajani for helping with the arrangements of today's function, to one of the Momin brothers, I don't know the first name, my gratitude for that excellent recitation of one of the Nauhas, to Shah Abbas Rajani for the recitation of Hadith Kissa, and for Mansoor Bhai for the food preparation at today's event. My deep gratitude to all of you who, despite the cold weather, have attended today's event. The support shown by you to the family and all your messages of condolences have been a great source of comfort to all of us. Please join me in reciting Surah Fatiha for my mother, Marhuma Shirinbai Shirley Jan Muhammad Bhogadia, my late father, Marhum Sharil Jan Muhammad Bhogadia, and the Marhumeens of the Bhogadia and the Aladdin Bhimji families. Al-Fatiha.